Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstop. Thanks so much for streaming live here with us on your Thursday afternoon. We've got a lot of national and local stories to get to. One of the first stories we start our coverage with today involves that ICE shooting in Minneapolis. As of today, protests do continue in Minneapolis, and you can see a live look there from the ground. Photographers moving his camera back slowly, so it is a bit bumpy. But Minneapolis is on edge at this point because we're learning a little bit more about the shooting. We're learning a little bit more about who that woman was. She's been identified as 37-year-old Renee Nicole Good, and city officials are really at odds with the White House over how this incident unfolded. The Trump administration is arguing the shooting happened in self-defense and that the woman was trying to ram her car at ICE agents. However, state and local officials say the video of what happened here tells a much different story. Minnesota officials are blaming ICE, which currently has more than 2,000 officers across the state. Governor Tim Walz says he's prepared to deploy the National Guard if necessary. We see protesters asking ICE to leave the city. It's not clear if that vehicle actually struck the officer, and sources do tell Fox News that none of the agents involved were wearing body cameras at the time of this shooting. Photos from the scene showed a bullet hole in the windshield of the SUV, and state officials are now coordinating with the FBI on the investigation. We also know that Minneapolis public schools have canceled classes for the rest of this week. They say it's out of an abundance of caution. And as of now, we know that the White House is holding a news briefing to update the public about this shooting. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt came out and spoke, as well as Vice President J.D. Vance. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. I'd like to let you listen in on what they both had to say. But in the meantime, let's take it a little closer to home as we prepare for the FIFA World Cup. MARTA has been working hard to figure out how they can accommodate the influx of travelers that are going to come to our city. Our Tyler Finger was there live. Tyler, what did you learn from this today?
Yeah, Ariel, good afternoon to you. There's a lot of excitement for the FIFA World Cup. I mean, we're going to see a lot of people coming to our city and to our region to take in the matches that are going to happen at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And there's a lot of preparations that need to happen to make sure that we are ready for that. And that's why the MARTA interim CEO and general manager was here at the state capitol this morning to be able to give an update to local leaders about what we can expect and what they're doing to make sure they're ready for the big 2026 that they are expecting with so many visitors coming to town for the World Cup. Let's show you some video from earlier. Jonathan Hunt is the interim general manager and CEO. He told lawmakers that MARTA is busy preparing for all of the people expected. He says they're focusing on operational reliability, improved security, and customer service excellence. Let's talk about security because that's obviously top of mind for a lot of us who live here in the region every single day. Hunt says over the last 5 to 6 years, violent crime has actually dropped 50% in the system, and in the last year, overall crime has dropped 28%. He knows perception is everything, which is why he says they are investing in its police department and adding more officers. Hunt says they have big plans for 2026, including putting their new train cars into service, add an upgraded payment system. So, you know, the tap and pay, if you've been to New York City, Ariel, you know that you can just use a credit card or an Apple Pay or a Samsung Pay to be able to pay for your items. So instead of having to use that Breeze card, you're going to be able to have a lot more payment options. There's also going to be a new bus network and a new bus rapid transit line, which is set to debut in April. Most of this is set to be completed before the World Cup comes to town, and MARTA's chief says the improvements to the system for the World Cup will benefit the region far beyond that final whistle and match.
MARTA is 100% ready for the World Cup. We are focused on cleanliness. We're focused on delivering a safe, clean, reliable service to the region for World Cup. We've deployed a lot of resources, and we have a very large World Cup planning initiative.
And while the MARTA chief was here at the Capitol this morning before he had to get back to MARTA headquarters for their monthly board meeting, he was also talking to the legislators about his priorities for this legislative session, which kicks off on the 12th. And he was saying that he really wants to see the MARTA penny sales tax be re-added and allowed to continue beyond its expiration date, because they say that is vital for them to be able to continue with the projects that they are working on. He also says that they are hoping for them to be allowed to put cameras on their rapid transit buses when those debut in April, to be able to ticket people who will end up being in those bus lanes and blocking traffic. They say that could be a real big problem for the bus rapid transit line if they just have people who are just parking in front of them. So they're hoping that that can get passed as well, because currently they're not able to actually stop people from doing that. They would have to have Atlanta police come on out and actually ticket those folks. So they're really hoping that that can get passed, so that they're able to do a remote ticketing using cameras to be able to hold people accountable. And I should also mention, during that board meeting that happened a short time ago, they were talking about the World Cup as well. And one of the things we learned during that meeting was that they're expecting huge crowds here, obviously.
Right.
Since we know who the countries are, which countries are coming here, they expect certain ones to actually draw more people into public transit. They named Spain, they also named Morocco, and also places like Haiti. They say some of those places rely on buses and different types of public transit. So they're expecting those different countries. So they're planning by game and match to be able to understand who is going to be using public transit, and just to make sure they're prepared for it.
Awesome. Well, Tyler, thanks so much for keeping us updated. I appreciate it. Definitely, as we look ahead to the World Cup, there's going to be so much our city is going to do to transform and to make sure they're ready to handle all these people. So, Tyler, thanks so much for keeping us updated. Guys, I want to continue along, keeping you informed of some of the big stories we're following. One of them involves President Donald Trump seeking more than $6 million in legal fees from the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. The motion relates to the election interference case, and it was recently dismissed after the removal of Fani Willis from that case because of a relationship with a special prosecutor. State legislatures cleared the way for President Trump's motion last year because they passed, and the governor signed, a law that allows people to get reimbursed for attorney fees and costs in cases where prosecutors are disqualified for improper conduct. So this is definitely a story we're going to keep an eye on and let you know whether or not Fulton County foots that bill. As we continue along here, another story that I want to let you know about as it relates to legal matters here within our metro area. The Georgia Association of Educators is actually suing DeKalb County schools, accusing the district of violating state law by failing to issue written contracts for the upcoming school year. Now, nearly 700 certified employees were told they would no longer receive contracts despite Georgia law requiring this. The GAE says the move creates uncertainty, and they also say it strips educators of long-standing protections. The lawsuit asks a judge to force the district to issue legally required contracts. So another story that we'll keep you updated on here in the Fox 5 newsroom. But as we look ahead, next Monday is a holiday that encourages us to reflect on service and reflect on what we are doing for the good of others. Our Deidre Dukes sat down with Bernice King, CEO of the King Center, to talk about this. And Deidre, thanks so much for joining us live. As we look ahead to the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, what did she have to tell you?
And this is a very big holiday for the nation, of course, but also for Atlanta and the state of Georgia, because as we know here, our viewers, Atlanta is Dr. King's birthplace, and this really is the city of Atlanta, the cradle of the civil rights movement. And so each year on the King holiday, thousands of people from around the world converge here in Atlanta, visiting the MLK Jr. National Historic Site, as they will do on Monday, January 19th, to mark the King holiday. Well, we did sit down with Dr. Bernice King to talk about the holiday, her father's legacy, and how Dr. King's teachings, his key principles of nonviolence, are more timely now than ever in the midst of global unrest. Now, she stressed that it's important to go beyond ceremonies and speeches and to truly honor her father's legacy and continue the work. She encourages people to put her father's message into practice year-round, keeping Dr. King's legacy alive through action and through meaningful change. Here's some of what she had to say.
I've seen more and more people engaged than I've ever seen in previous years. I mean, in the last few years, I've seen that increase. But it's something that we can't be reactionary on. We have to be more proactive. And so, again, for me, the King holiday helps to recenter us, refocus us, and hopefully people will begin to truly study the nonviolent way. Because it has to be studied. It can't just be a film strip here, a sermon or speech here. There are teachings. We do that here at the King Center. There are immersions. There's critical analysis of the principles and steps that Dr. King followed to get to the outcome that they got to. And so we need to pick up that blueprint, but we have to study it so that we can follow it.
And the King Center does host activities and programs year-round. And our viewers can find out more about the events planned here at the King Center surrounding the King holiday specifically, as well as those other programs and activities that they do carry out here year-round. And as you can see, there are actually people visiting even today, visiting the site here at the King Center and other areas of the National Historic Site here. Ebenezer Baptist Church and the sanctuary across the street. Just so much for people to take in here, and they certainly will be doing so during the King holiday observance, Ariel.
Deidre, wonderful that Atlanta is able to sit in this cradle of history and offer these lessons to people that they can come not only get familiar with the history, but also understand how they can apply service to their everyday lives. So thanks so much for sharing some of her message with us and looking ahead to Monday as we reflect on the legacy of Dr. King. So thank you so much, Deidre, for joining us. Okay, guys, we've got a lot of things to get to, so I want to keep us moving because just a little bit ago, the White House held a news briefing as it relates to the shooting in Minneapolis. And I see a lot of you popping off here in the TikTok chat, asking questions on YouTube. So if you have anything you really want me to discuss, I will try to get to it. But in the meantime, I'd like to take you to the White House. Not only did Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt come out and speak, she also brought out Vice President J.D. Vance. I'd like to listen to what J.D. Vance had to say as we continue here in our 2 o'clock hour.
Great. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And I want to echo some of what Carolyn said about what we're doing to combat the rampant fraud that exists in our immigration system, thanks to failed politicians and thanks to people who allowed the American taxpayer to be taken advantage of for far too long. I think it's important to understand why this matters to the American people. I am a father of 3 young kids, a lot of people in my generation. What is that going on there? Is that normal? Okay. CNN installed this broken camera just to throw me off my game, but it's not going to work. So here's the simple fact here. If you're a young parent struggling to afford childcare in the United States of America, there are programs that we have to make it easier for your kids to get in daycare, for your kids to get in preschool. Those programs should go to American citizens, not be defrauded by Somali immigrants and others. Make it hard for you to get the access to the resources you need. But number 2, making it easier for people who shouldn't even be in this country to fleece the United States and our taxpayers to begin with. We have actually activated a major interagency task force to make it possible to get to the heart of this fraud. We have Department of Agriculture resources that are focused on SNAP fraud so that people who need food benefits can get them, but illegal aliens and other fraudsters don't. We have over 1,500 subpoenas that the Department of Justice has issued to get to the heart of the fraud ring. We've done almost 100 indictments, mostly Somali immigrants, but also a few others. And of course, we're looking in with broad investigatory authority to a number of the instances of wrongdoing that we've seen in Minneapolis. But we also want to expand this. We know that the fraud isn't just happening in Minneapolis, it's also happening in states like Ohio. It's happening in states like California. And so what we're doing in order to help coordinate this remarkable interagency effort from the Trump administration, but also to make sure that we prosecute the bad guys and do it as swiftly and efficiently as possible, is we are creating a new Assistant Attorney General position who will have nationwide jurisdiction over the issue of fraud. Now, of course, that person's efforts will start and focus primarily in Minnesota, but it is going to be a nationwide effort because, unfortunately, the American people have been defrauded in a very nationwide way. I want to thank a couple of people for the cooperation, in particular Pam Bondi,
fraud in
our
Minnesota
Attorney
and
General.
across the
First of
United
all,
States and
we're
the
getting a
efforts that
lot
the
of
United States is
resources
taking to
Minneapolis
combat it.
to
A
investigate
short time after this, the Vice President did take questions from reporters,
we've
so I'd like you guys to listen to some of the questions reporters asked and what he had to say.
Vice President Vance, you just suggested that this woman who was killed, Renee Good, is part of a broader left-wing network. Who do you think is behind this broader left-wing network?
Well, it's one of the things we're going to have to figure out, but here's the way that I put it. When somebody throws a brick at an ICE agent or somebody tries to run over an ICE agent, who paid for the brick? And who told protesters to show up and engage in violent activity against our law enforcement officers? You see, just with this most recent terrible incident in Minneapolis, you see friends of this woman's or other people who are eyewitnesses saying basically that she was there to engage in obstruction of a legitimate law enforcement operation. How did she get there? How did she learn about this? There's an entire network, and frankly, some of the media are participating in it, that is trying to incite violence against our law enforcement officers. It's ridiculous, it's preposterous, and part of our investigatory work is getting to the bottom of it. Who's funding it? Who's supporting it? Who's cheerleading it? And of course, if there's illegal activity related to that, we're going to get to the bottom of that and prosecute it where we can.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for taking questions today. Is there a risk with you describing her as a deranged leftist, talking about very specific facts of these events, when an investigation is just beginning? Are you preempting a thorough investigation by drawing such conclusions? And have you received any information beyond the videos we've seen publicly about this individual, her specific acts, that has informed your point of view?
Well, first of all, the Department of Justice is going to investigate this. The Department of Homeland Security is already investigating this. But the simple fact is, what you see is what you get in this case. You have a woman who is trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. Nobody debates that. You have a woman who aimed her car at a law enforcement officer and pressed on the accelerator. Nobody debates that. I can believe that her death is a tragedy, while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe, against our law enforcement officers. I think what is clearly happening here, and it's going to keep on happening unless the Democrats wake up and say, you know what, you don't have to agree with our immigration policies. You don't have to agree with what the president or the vice president believe about immigration enforcement, but why don't you take this to the ballot box? Why don't you vote? Why don't you organize? Instead, what some of them are doing is encouraging people to get violent with our law enforcement officials. It's disgraceful, and it's got to stop.
Just to follow up on that question, and again, thank you for taking questions, Mr. Vice President. There's clearly a lot of emotion in Minnesota, across the country, over this incident. You're calling Renee Good a deranged leftist. There's been heated rhetoric that we've also heard from officials. What responsibility do you and the president have to diffuse some of the tension that we are seeing play out in Minnesota, bring down the temperature as this investigation is unfolding?
What we have a responsibility to do is to protect the people who are enforcing the law and protect the country writ large. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, you deserve to have the people's laws enforced in the United States of America. Now, again, I'm not happy that this woman lost her life. I'm not happy that this woman was there at a protest violating the law by interfering with a law enforcement action. I think that we can all recognize that the best way to turn down the temperature is to tell people to take their concerns about immigration policy to the ballot box. Stop assaulting and stop inciting violence against our law enforcement officers. That's the best way to take down the temperature. And we're not going to give in to terrorism on this. And that's exactly what's happening. People trying to antagonize, to commit acts of violence. They throw bricks at them. Sometimes they shoot at them. Sometimes they dox them. Sometimes they go to their place of residence and harass their families. This is classic terrorism. And we cannot say that when a far left fringe is inciting violence against our brave law enforcement officials, that we're no longer going to enforce the law. That's rewarding the very people who are engaged in this garbage. The actual reward that they just got is a new assistant attorney general who is going to prosecute and investigate this stuff even more aggressively than before.
Yeah. Thanks for taking my question. So the head of Minnesota's investigations agency says that the U.S. Attorney's Office has essentially cut off the state investigations agency's access to the investigation. What is the precedent precedent for that, and why shouldn't the Minnesota officials on the ground have access and evidence to work on this investigation?
First of all, I wish the state officials in Minnesota would investigate why you have so many people who are using their vehicles and other means to actually interfere with a legitimate law enforcement operation. The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous. The unprecedented thing is the idea that a local official can actually prosecute a federal official with absolute immunity. I've never seen anything like that. It would get tossed out by a judge. So what I'd like Minnesota to focus on is the real issue that they're encouraging people. Minneapolis officials are encouraging people to commit violence against ICE officials. It's ridiculous. It's got to stop. Go ahead.
Mr. President, thank you. You said earlier that there's a left-wing network to attack, to dox, to assault, and make it impossible for ICE officers to do their job. You told my colleague just now that there's an investigation going on into that network.
Yep.
So if everything that you say is true, how does being part of that network justify being shot?
Well, being part of the network doesn't justify being shot, but ramming an ICE officer with your car, that's what justifies being shot. It's not a good thing, by the way, but when you force somebody to engage in self-defense, it's almost a preposterous question. I'm not saying that funding some of this stuff justifies capital punishment. Nobody would suggest that. The reason this woman is dead is because she tried to ram somebody with her car, and that guy acted in self-defense. That is why she lost her life, and that is the tragedy. Now, there may be other violations of the law and other penalties that are associated with those violations of the law. For example, if you are funding violence against our law enforcement officers, I'm not a prosecutor. My guess is that's not the sort of thing that earns capital punishment, but it should sure as hell earn you a few years in prison if you're funding the effort to try to assault our law enforcement officers. I'm sorry, guys, what's going on here? You guys are meant to report the truth. How have you let yourself become agents of propaganda of a radical fringe that's making it harder for us to enforce our laws? You just asked
the
me
White House press room, updating on that shooting, taking questions and answers from reporters and helping to make sense of the situation. I am seeing all of your comments here on TikTok and YouTube, things that you guys have questions to. Coming up, we're going to get to your weather forecast here in the metro Atlanta area. And then after that, we're going to go live to Minneapolis, and we're going to be speaking with reporter Connor Hansen about the situation there on the ground. That is coming up next. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstad. Thanks so much here for streaming live with us. We've got a lot of things to cover. We're going to go back to Minneapolis in just a little bit. But first, here in Metro Atlanta, it is warm outside, and Doug Evans has your forecast.
Good afternoon, everybody. Listen, our temperatures are about to do a U-turn, headed right back to winter. We've been in a fall, spring-like temperature pattern with temperatures in the 70s, and that's going to continue until Saturday. And then a cold front's coming our way. That's going to bring some storms and much lower high temperatures, as you see on the board here. 49 for Sunday, 48 for Monday, with overnight low temperatures in the 20s between then. Then we're headed back to more seasonable temperatures. That means in the 50s. We're all going to see temps that are going to be around the 70-degree mark today with a lot of cloudiness. Those clouds are going to continue to build throughout the day. We've got this monster weather system that's out in the west, and that's causing some tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings already, and that's going to be just moving toward the east. It's going to arrive for us on Saturday morning into Saturday afternoon. And with that, we can expect some winds, some gusty winds, also a lot of rain. We've been looking at the rainfall totals anywhere near 3 inches when it's all out of here by Sunday for especially the North Georgia mountains. So we've got to keep an eye out this weekend for the potential of flash flooding, especially up in the North Georgia mountains. Not impressive rainfall totals with what's coming in on Friday. We talk about the kind of accumulative totals throughout the weekend. Here we are on Friday evening. We're already up toward about 1 inch in some communities, and then, wow, up to 3 inches in some spots, 3.5 inches, Rome, Ellijay, Canton, near that, Blairsville, 2.5 inches up there. So that brings us the potential for possibly some flash flooding. Below I-20, not much in the rainfall for you this weekend. Again, lots of clouds this afternoon, temperatures near 70 degrees. We're going to see those temperatures dive back into the 40s by Sunday and Monday. Hour by hour forecast. Here we are Friday morning into the Friday noon hour, and we're starting to see those showers coming out of Alabama, and then they become more widespread across the North Georgia area. And downtown, not going to see much in the way of rainfall. Anywhere south of 20, not also going to see much in rain. It's mostly North Georgia on to about I-20 or so. Over there in the west, the western counties, they can expect some rain showers possibly Friday evening. Here's the severe weather outlook for the next day or so. Saturday, it's mostly Louisiana, Mississippi into Alabama, including Birmingham, a level 2 risk there, and that does include the potential for tornadoes. For us, it's more damaging winds, frequent lightning, and heavy rain. This could change, though, and we'll be keeping a close eye on this in the Fox 5 Storm Center. So here you go. Here's our 7-day forecast. Again, near 70 today. That's where we'll top out. Friday, very close to that. We add some rain, especially for North Georgia. All of us see a greater potential for rain on Saturday, especially the potential of some severe weather on Saturday. So please add that to your weekend planning. Sunday, mostly cloudy and cold. Get some sunshine here on Monday, but it's cold and windy. With the wind, we expect temperatures overnight in the 20s, and that's going to be with the wind chill, man. That's going to be very cold Sunday night into Monday. And then we get back to more usual weather for this time of year in January. 54 is the average temperature for this year. This time of year, we expect that on Tuesday, and then we'll start a slow warming trend for the rest of the week.
Awesome, Doug. Thanks so much. Definitely going to enjoy the warm weather while we have it here in the Atlanta metro area. Okay, guys, we want to continue to keep you updated on the unfolding situation in Minneapolis. Fox's Connor Hansen is out live there on the ground, so I want to go out live to Connor and see what is happening. Connor, thanks so much for joining us. Tell me where you are there in the city, and what are you seeing with any protests right now? Are there any around you?
Hi, Ariel. Well, just to give you some context, we're standing about a half a block away from where this shooting happened. You can see right behind me a little bit of a traffic jam at the moment, but they actually have sort of a makeshift barricade on every end of this block so cars can't drive through. There's also a memorial for Renee Good, the 37-year-old woman who was shot and killed here just yesterday. There's a few dozen people right behind me, but a larger group further down. They've been moving around. There have been other protests around the city, one at the federal building as well, and at some points with hundreds, if not thousands of people, and all of that started yesterday, almost as soon as that confrontation began. Even before the shooting, protesters were around this area. Then, of course, after the shooting, things got extremely tense here between protesters and those federal officials. Then later on, local police here. Notably, there isn't really a police presence at the moment here. That might be by design to reduce any chance of conflict, but we'll be keeping a close eye on this if it continues to grow into the evening.
Connor, I'm curious, you know, we've seen dueling narratives shape this shooting, one from Minnesota leaders, another from the White House and leaders there. So I'm curious, can you break down for people who may be just joining this story, what are both sides saying and where do we move forward with this? What's the latest for Minnesota?
Well, Ariel, there's been a lot of tension on that very point. We've seen the Trump administration officials come out and call this shooting an act of self-defense, some even going as far as saying what Good did was an act of domestic terrorism, trying to ram those ICE officers or ICE agents. But local, state and local officials here, the mayor and others, the governor, say after watching the videos of how exactly this played out, they think it tells a much different story and they want a much deeper investigation into what actually went down. Obviously, those videos have circulated pretty widely at this point, and people are drawing a lot of their own opinions here. Of course, this will eventually be up to investigators to decide, but the latest news on that is the Minnesota state investigators are saying they're no longer a part of this investigation. They're supposed to be working alongside with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney investigating this shooting, but they came out today and said the FBI notified them that they're just going to be handling this alone, and the State Bureau of Criminal Apprehension will have no part in this. They say they have no access to the evidence, interviews, and any materials from this scene here. Governor Walz came out at a news conference earlier today, very critical of that decision, saying the state investigators need to be a part of this investigation to give some more assurances to the people here. The FBI has come back and said the state doesn't have any jurisdiction since this was an alleged attack on a federal agent. So that's likely going to be the source of a lot of tension here going forward to gather around the city.
Connor, thanks so much for that context. You know, another question I want to address, just because I am seeing it here in our TikTok chat and something people are talking a lot about. Some have said that Renee Good was leaving her own driveway at the time of this and she was not there to protest. Have you heard anything about that? Do you know if we have anything confirmed on that front?
Well, I'd want to be careful on that topic exactly as this investigation kind of progresses. I can tell you the narrative from federal investigators and the Trump administration is that Renee Good was in the middle of the road blocking those ICE agents who were trying to leave the area after they'd carried out their activities here on the block. But you're right, there have been some conflicting narratives about that as well. So that'll all come out in the investigation, we'd hope, as they look into not just this shooting that played out, but everything that led up to it.
Awesome. Connor, I so appreciate your time today, letting us know where things stand. Thanks for a live look on the ground there in Minneapolis. We appreciate you, Connor. Guys, we're going to move on here as we continue in our 2 o'clock hour because we have a few other things to get to. I want to look ahead and get you some other national news as it relates to Venezuela and Greenland and where we stand there. We also have some local stories to get to with our Chris Rosenthal, so we'll be checking in on all that coming up next. Welcome back in, everyone. Thanks so much for streaming live here with us on your Thursday afternoon. I want to get to some information on the latest with Venezuela because I know a lot of you have questions about it. The president is outlining a little bit more about what his plan is going to look like in terms of the future of the country. He says the United States is going to be calling the shots in the country for the next few years or possibly longer. So far, the ideas are meeting little resistance in the new Venezuelan government. We've seen some pro-government rallies continue in Caracas, Venezuela's capital, 5 days after the arrest of former President Nicolas Maduro. Some officials are promising to defy the United States, but behind closed doors, there are more signs of cooperation. President Trump now says the United States could oversee Venezuela and extract its oil for years to come. He also posted on social media that Venezuela will buy, quote, only American-made products with the oil revenue. That follows the seizure of 2 Venezuelan-linked oil tankers Wednesday. The White House says the oil on those ships will be used to buy American-made goods for Venezuela like medicine and agriculture products. Venezuela's new president, Delcy Rodriguez, is hinting the cooperation will continue at least in the short term. But the president's also extending his influence to Colombia. He spoke with President Gustavo Petro on Wednesday about his alleged support of drug cartels. And the president invited Petro, leader of Colombia, to a meeting in Washington. Now, Petro says he shouldn't put his guard down. He's not going to, but he's going to speak with the White House. We also know that the president is set to meet with oil executives at the White House on Friday. So that is something we're going to be keeping a close eye on. Meantime, the Senate today is passing a bipartisan resolution that would require congressional authorization for military force against Venezuela. The president had previously threatened a second wave of attacks on the country. And he also said the United States would do that after extracting Maduro. But the Senate put the axe on that situation. So we'll continue to keep you updated there. And here very briefly, I also want to let you know where we stand with Greenland because Congress is pushing back, saying we cannot use military force to take Greenland. A growing number of lawmakers, including the Republican leadership, are calling on the president to rule out the use of force. And we know that the president renewed his push to take over this Danish territory after capturing Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela. But Danish officials said yesterday any attack on Greenland would mean the end of NATO. The White House responded by refusing to rule out military action. But Republicans in Congress say they won't support any attempt to take the territory by force. Some went even further, claiming an attack on Greenland without congressional approval would be illegal. So this fading support among lawmakers that we're seeing also comes as European allies stand up and defend Denmark. We do know that fracturing the NATO alliance might not be a strong deterrent because President Trump has said his priority is securing the Western Hemisphere and not Europe. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is set to meet with his Danish counterpart there next week, and the goal is to de-escalate tensions, something we're absolutely going to keep you guys updated on as we continue. I also want to continue along here within our hour as we look locally to some other stories. We know that a group of friends is actually trying to set a record as it relates to MARTA and making sure that they can set a record for the quickest ride on MARTA, which is really pretty incredible. Chris Rosenthal joins us live to talk about this. And Chris, I understand they've already done this before in Chicago. Hello.
Yeah, they've done this before in Chicago, and now they are here to do this here in Atlanta on MARTA. Their target goal is 3 hours. This is nobody's actually set a Guinness record for the shortest amount of time to go to all stations, ride all stations. That's 38 stations, by the way. And I'm here at North Springs, where they're going to start, and they're going to finish at the airport. And here are the guys. Let's meet the 3 guys that are about to attempt this, and hopefully successfully. Joe, first of all, you're holding the this is the certificate Chicago you got for Chicago. So hoping to get this for Atlanta. Tell me, where did this idea come from?
Yeah, so me and Matt, we're urban explorers, we like to say. I'm trying to run all the streets of Chicago. I'm now at 79%, and with that, I love exploring. I love going to different places in the city, and so we got a record in Chicago, and then we're looking to see any other cities, and then we're like, oh, we can do it in Atlanta. So here we are in Atlanta, trying to get a Guinness World Record.
Why Atlanta?
Atlanta's a great city. I love Atlanta. It's very similar to Chicago. Love the people here. Like, you guys have been giving us so much love, like the media, everyone, and so yeah, we're here in Atlanta. We got the support, and yeah.
And Matthew, talk to me about the planning that's gone into this.
Well, it's a lot of planning involved. I mean, you don't just ride the train. You know, there's a lot of logistics that have gone into this. In fact, we're an international team. We have people from different countries here. I'm from Chicago, but they're from other countries, and we look through the logistics of what is the most optimal route to do. How can we do it so that way hopefully it's unbreakable? But it went a whole lot of planning in order to make it happen today, for sure.
And you've actually, you haven't done a test run or anything yet, have you?
No, absolutely not. Yesterday was the first day I ever rode MARTA. So what's nice is it's going to be done on the spot. It's going to be done extemporaneously. We can adjust on the spot. It also makes it more fun because it should be a fun activity.
There's a lot of rules, too. Talk to me about some of the rules you got to abide by.
Yeah, so Guinness has a lot of rules. I mean, Omar can talk about what he's going to do. So essentially, he's going to be filming the whole thing, and he's going to be taking photos at every station, and we need independent witnesses who are going to be there as well. So there's going to be a lot of rules that we need to follow because there's not going to be a Guinness adjudicator, and for majority of the records you don't need Guinness adjudicators, but you need a lot of evidence if there is any.
Including the logbook, which I'll be in charge of filling out for every single station throughout the day.
Yeah, we need to make sure everything is, for example, like Joavi said, I have to make sure everything is recorded. We have to make sure like every station also, I have to take a photo of him. So yeah, we need to be very strict and very specific with all of the requisites that the Guinness have for us. So yeah, I have to record the 3 hours. Hopefully we finish it on that time, and yeah, let's do it.
And you live here in Atlanta. Does this mean something extra special for you?
No, it's amazing. My parents have been here for a long time. I come here every time that I come to visit them, so it's like a home for me. So I'm very glad that I'm doing this here in Atlanta.
Awesome. So they're starting here at 3 o'clock and hoping to finish 3 hours or less in where at? The airport.
Yes, we're going to finish off at the airport around 6 o'clock.
So hopefully some people can come and cheer us on and see us at the airport. So we're hoping to celebrate there.
And you know, one of the cool things I met Ariel. I met them earlier at another MARTA station, and people already recognize them. People were already coming up to you guys and shaking your hand, getting pictures taken with you.
Yeah. Local celebrities today. That's cool.
Because it's good news, and we really are here because Atlanta's a great city. It's a world-class city. We're really happy to be here, and we want the people of Atlanta to feel good about their own city. It was some good news today.
And it's amazing. Like, we feel the support, we feel everyone there, and also if you want to try the record and beat it, you can try it. Like that's also the point, you know.
Yeah. Maybe somebody will come try and beat you guys after this. So good luck, guys. Just about 3 o'clock, they'll be going through these turnstiles and stepping on that train. So,
Chris, love to see you here with us. We're going to check back in with you at 3 o'clock, but love to see some people, some travelers endorsing our city so highly. So, Chris, thanks so much. All the best to the group as they try to break the Guinness World Record. Coming up, we're going to be speaking with our Miles Garrett about where we stand with the Atlanta Falcons. As you know, there was a big announcement today from the owner, Arthur Blank, about the future of the team, some leadership changes. We're going to talk about that coming up, as well as some other stories, you guys. What can happen? Welcome in, you guys. I'm Ariel Onstad here with Miles Garrett. And Miles, there have been some major things happening in the Atlanta sports world. You've been really busy. Today, tell me about Arthur Blank. He spoke about the future of the Falcons. Where does the team go from here?
Yeah, it's not often we get to hear from owner Arthur Blank. I believe the last time we spoke to him, it was around the training camp time. And at that time, expectations were through the roof for this Falcons team to break this playoff drought that they have. Unfortunately, that did not happen. That extended now. It's the second longest playoff drought for any team in the NFL. And subsequently, changes were made. Raheem Morris, the head coach, general manager Terry Fontenot also let go. So he addressed both of those topics today, as well as a new position, president of football, not football operations. He clarified that today. But Ariel, the current favorite for that role is former MVP quarterback Matt Ryan, who is supposedly interviewing for that position at some point either today or tomorrow. There's a bunch of different candidates, but it's widely assumed that Matt Ryan is in fact the favorite to land that role. The head coach GM scheduled to potentially report to that person, whether that or not that is Matt Ryan or not. But some big news there, potentially seeing a very familiar face back inside Atlanta Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
I think a lot of the fans would be so happy if Matt Ryan came back. You know, he was really, truly one of the best Falcons players of all time.
You could argue the best.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
You know, me playing it safe over here, but you're so right. So as we look ahead, you know, one of the things I've seen from so many of the fans is that they've gone, Arthur Blank has been reading the comments. He's been reading the Instagram comments. What other moves has Arthur made that kind of seem to support that decision?
That he's listening to the fans? Yes. I mean, he's seen Mercedes-Benz Stadium, right? I mean, the team has not had a winning record for years now. He's noticed that. He wants to make changes. That was part of the reason why he really did make these changes, because if you look at the way the season ended, the Falcons won 4 straight games. There were reasons to potentially bring back this current or former regime, rather, that being Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot, based on the way the season ended. Some good positives there. You beat the Rams, who are one of the best teams in the NFL in primetime Monday Night Football. But ultimately, like we've basically been saying, Arthur Blank has heard the fans, has seen their disappointment online, whether that's, like I said, online or being at the stadium itself. He understands that fans are frustrated, and rightfully so. It's the second longest playoff drought in all the NFL, so changes were definitely needed.
So I understand that you got maybe a little bit of that news conference from earlier where Arthur spoke. Do you think now's probably a good time to listen to it?
Now's a good time to play it.
Let's listen.
I think Michael is our franchise quarterback. The injury he sustained was on his other knee. The surgeon felt 1,000% secure in the medical procedure they went through, and they really felt his knee was going to be even better than it was before. He's on a successful rehab program. He's back in Atlanta. He's committed mentally, physically. He feels good. So, yes, I would certainly see that.
Miles, it kind of sounds like, too, you know, as we look at the quarterback situation.
Oh, yes, the big question.
What is it? You tell me.
So, again, that's being the question. The quarterback going into this season and really a little bit last year was second-year quarterback Michael Penix Jr., who was selected in the first round. Now, he got hurt, tore his ACL. Kirk Cousins, $180 million guaranteed contract from last season, was benched at one point, had the Falcons at 6-3, finished this season replacing Michael Penix Jr., but, of course, there have been some questions whether or not if that's what this new head coach and general manager will want going forward. It's the most important position in sports and obviously in football. But Arthur Blank, as you just heard right there, firmly saying that he believes that Michael Penix Jr. is in fact this franchise's quarterback moving forward. Again, it's going to be up to the GM and the head coach to make some of these big decisions, because it's not currently set in stone whether or not Penix will be ready for week 1 because of that torn ACL. It's a very serious injury. He's dealt with some ACL tears before. So the Falcons may perhaps need to go in free agency to maybe get another quarterback or bring back Kirk Cousins. So there's a lot of questions here that haven't yet been answered.
Miles, you've been so busy, and I really appreciate. I feel like you've been doing incredible work keeping us up to date on this. So kudos. You guys have been seeing Miles's social media where you are posting insider information and reports and trying to keep us up to date as it comes. I know people are really excited to see what's next for the future of the Falcons. So Miles, thanks so much for joining us and making sense of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Guys, we're going to continue on with some other local news here real quick, I want to tell you about some car break-ins in Marietta really fast, as it might pertain to you. And I want to make sure that you're aware of what's going on, because police say that you need to be aware car break-ins are in the rise there, specifically in Rockford Township and Lee's Crossing in Marietta. Thieves are targeting guns and valuables in unlocked cars. And police actually say that the unseasonably warm weather and lapses in vigilance after the holidays are contributing to this uptick. They say you should stay alert. You're seeing video from some of those incidents. They also say be a good witness by recording suspects safely from a distance. Don't approach them as they may be armed. That's a situation we're going to continue to watch as it unfolds. In the meantime, though, we are getting word of breaking news in Rockdale County. So I want to continue here as we progress with our Billy Heath, who rushed out to try to get some information. Billy, what are you learning right now?
Hey Ariel, so I am on the scene just outside of the home where this all played out. I want to first talk about Skyfox 5 flew over the scene. Of course, they were the first ones here to get a look at what was going on. What we saw from Skyfox 5 was, one, a very heavy police presence, and two, what appeared to be, again, no official confirmation just yet, but what appeared to be a body in the backyard. Obviously, it's something we want to get out and cover and find out what's going on in this neighborhood. So you're right, I rushed out here, and the first thing that I saw when I arrived at this scene was there were a lot of neighbors outside. So I started talking to them to get an idea of what was playing out here. The neighbors said, and again, no official details yet, but neighbors are telling me that they did hear one single gunshot. Shortly after that gunshot, heavy police presence flooded the area, and they also mentioned that there was a child that was somehow involved in this, but it was out in front of the home. Now, there's a lot that we want to learn here, so of course we did reach out to the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office. Ariel, let me just pull that statement up really quickly so I can give you the very latest from Rockdale County. They gave us a statement. They said on January 8th, 2025, at approximately 11:07, the Rockdale County Sheriff's Office was dispatched to a person shot at the 3000 block of Setter's Trail. The incident involved a domestic dispute where a child was present. So everything the neighbors have told me so far is lining right up with this statement, and what we want to know is how that child is doing, if there was any injury, and of course if this was a fatality. Based on what I'm hearing from neighbors and what our chopper saw, it does seem like this was a tragic and fatal incident, Ariel.
Billy, thank you so much for that update. Definitely a lot of questions. We want to know whether or not anyone was hurt, how that child may have been involved. Just a tragic situation, no matter how you look at it. No, you're going to continue to stay out there, try to get us some answers, and we'll check back in with you if you get anything. But I'm glad you were able to speak with neighbors, and it seems that what they've been able to share with you has matched up to what police are sharing. Billy, thanks so much.
Right.
Anything else before I let you go that you think people should be aware of?
No, that's it. I'm going to continue to talk to neighbors out here. I will say, for anyone watching in the area does appear to be safe at this time, and the on the ground sort of investigation appears to have concluded at this point.
Okay, good to know, Billy. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Guys, we're going to continue here with a couple other local headlines as we get ready for our 2 o'clock hour. I want to let you know where we stand with as we approach our 3 o'clock hour, excuse me. One of the things I want to let you know about as we look at the midterm elections here in the state of Georgia, a new face is entering the race for Secretary of State. And I'm talking about Fulton County Commissioner Dana Barrett. She is actually running for that Secretary of State position. She announced it just today. She was elected to the commission, Fulton County Commission, in 2022, and she beat longtime Republican incumbent Lee Morris. She currently represents District 3, which includes Buckhead, Sandy Springs, and Midtown. And she joins a crowded list of candidates, including Democrats Penny Brown Reynolds and Adrian Consary Jr., Republicans Tim Fleming, Gabriel Sterling, Vernon Jones, and Kevin Kling. So something that we'll continue to keep you updated on as we track the midterms here in the state of Georgia. But coming up, we've got a lot of other news to get to here in our 3 o'clock hour. We're going to be checking in on what is happening in Minneapolis, the latest with protests there, what the White House is saying, and what state leaders are saying as we continue. And of course, your weather forecast here in the metro Atlanta area. That's ahead. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thank you so much for joining us here on your Thursday afternoon as we're streaming live here at 3 o'clock. I know that you guys are very interested about the situation unfolding in Minneapolis, so let's go out live to our Connor Hansen, who continues to track what we know now. Connor, can you share a little bit about where you are and what's the situation with any protests that may be happening around you?
Hi, Ariel. Well, just for context, we're standing about a half a block away from where that shooting happened. You can see behind me there's a sort of makeshift barricade set up here. This is on all sides of that block as some of the people gather on this side, some more on the other side. There's also a makeshift memorial for Renee Good, the 37-year-old woman who died in this shooting. There have been protests in other parts of town, too. In some cases, hundreds, if not thousands of people. Some gathered at the federal building where they've sort of been standing off with some federal officials who are standing guard at the gate there. So still quite the tense situation here as we sort of see also these competing narratives between both federal officials and the state and local officials over this investigation.
Connor, what do we know about the woman involved in this shooting?
Well, her name is Renee Good. She's 37 years old and was from this city. She was from Minnesota. She had kids and a partner here. So people have been gathering in force to remember her, setting up candles, flowers, things like that in the area. Of course, she was shot and killed yesterday by an ICE agent. As I mentioned before, dueling narratives over what exactly happened here. A lot of it was caught on camera, people making their own decisions about what they saw, but federal authorities are sticking to their story, saying that Good tried to ram into their officers and they were shooting back in self-defense. As we've seen from local and state officials, they say the video tells a much different story, and some going as far as saying that it was not quite justified.
Yeah, you know, Connor, we heard from Minnesota leaders and Minneapolis leaders about the situation. Obviously, they have a very different perspective than the White House does, and we know the White House just wrapped up a briefing where they addressed this shooting. Curious if you could explain a little bit more about the Minnesota governor's comments about using the National Guard. I've seen some people ask about that. What did he mean? Would he deploy the National Guard against ICE agents there in Minneapolis? Can you make sense of it for us?
Well, Governor Walz's comments about the National Guard seem to be more directed at, overall public safety. If there were to be situations of protests or things like that, if they were needed. Obviously, they've been against the Trump administration taking it upon themselves to send in the National Guard. So that could create quite an interesting, intense dynamic here. Obviously, as for the investigation, there's been some back and forth. The FBI says it's now fully in charge of the investigation into the shooting. Its reason for that is saying it's because it was involving a federal agent who did fire that weapon, but they also say that agent was being attacked. Originally, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, these are state investigators, were supposed to be involved in this equally as well. Now they're saying they've been sort of iced out. They're unable to view any of the evidence from the scene, any of the interviews. Governor Walz is calling for them to be back in that, and they should, be equal part of this to give more credibility to people who live here in Minnesota. Of course, the feds disagree.
Yeah, Connor, kind of a final question here as we wrap up. Obviously, we see a lot of people sharing different things on social media. Many things have not been confirmed yet. And I know one question that a lot of people are asking and talking about is they point out that when ICE agents were approaching her car, the tires were turned away from agents. Therefore, she was not intending to ram her car at agents. But at the end of the day, this is something that I'm curious whether or not you've heard any officials address this, whether or not this has been something that's been confirmed as the investigation moves forward.
Well, this early in the investigation, it's difficult to make any final determinations. I certainly don't want to weigh in my personal opinion on how that looked. There are videos that sort of speak for themselves in some ways. Unfortunately, there's not a more direct shot. Those ICE agents were not wearing body cameras, so you're not going to get that first-person view of exactly what happened, but I'm sure more videos will emerge. Certainly the state and local officials, the mayor, when he spoke yesterday, said after watching that video that it does not appear they were ramming into those ICE agents, even though the Trump administration, DHS, are sticking to that narrative.
Absolutely. Connor, I so appreciate your perspective, joining us live and making sense of things there on the ground for Minneapolis. Thanks for your time this afternoon. And guys, because as we continue here, I see a lot of your comments and what you want to know. We spoke with Connor just now. Coming up in a little bit, we're going to be listening to a news briefing from the White House that just unfolded a short time ago and has already wrapped up. The Vice President, J.D. Vance, came out to the podium and talked about the shooting in Minneapolis. So we're going to listen to what he had to say and the questions he took from reporters there within the White House briefing room. And we'll get to that in just a little bit. But first, I'd like to continue with a few local stories that are getting a lot of attention. One of them dealing with the president as he is seeking over $6 million in legal fees from the Fulton County District Attorney's Office. This motion relates to the election interference case. It was recently dismissed after the removal of District Attorney Fani Willis from that case. You may remember, due to a relationship she had with a special prosecutor. Well, state legislatures cleared the way for President Trump's motion last year because they passed and Governor Kemp signed a law allowing people to get reimbursed for attorney fees and costs in cases where prosecutors are disqualified for improper conduct. So now President Trump and his legal team are saying, we see this law and we want our money back, essentially. And as we continue here, another story as it relates to legal action here within the metro area, we know that DeKalb County schools are facing a new lawsuit. The Georgia Association of Educators is actually suing the district because they say that the district's violating state law by not issuing written contracts for the upcoming school year. Nearly 700 certified employees were told they would no longer receive contracts despite Georgia law requiring them. So now the GAE is stepping in. They say the move creates uncertainty and it strips educators of long-standing protections. The lawsuit asks a judge actually to force the district to issue those legally required contracts. So definitely something we're going to continue to keep you updated on at this time. But as we move along, I want to tell you about a really incredible story. Imagine you are accused of being a squatter, but you feel you've come by the house you're living in. Honestly, you feel like you're there because you've signed a rental agreement, you think everything's on the up and up, and then the next thing you know, that is not the case. Kevin Stewart joins us live to talk about this crazy story. Kevin, break it down for us. This woman signed a rental agreement, thought she was living in this house legally?
Yeah, barely living in there. This all happened back on Friday, and then she found out through some detective work checking court records that the person who on the lease said they owned the house really didn't own the house. You know, we're talking about a family with a small child and a caretaker. They lived in Clayton County. They were looking for a new, bigger home to live in for their family. They found a broker who was going to send them to a couple different houses. They went to a house here in South Fulton. They had already paid $4,000, which included the first month's rent. When they went inside the home using a smart lock, they were excited. They said, "Oh, this is a perfect house." Then, when they attempted to try to put the utilities, the water, in their name, they couldn't do it. They were running into a problem. They reached back out to the broker who directed them to the house. They said, "Oh, I'll do that. I'll take care of it. Just send me $300. That was a problem. They hadn't even had the keys yet. And so what the woman did was she looked at the lease, looked at the owner on that lease. Then she looked at court records in Fulton County, and they didn't match up. She called the owner of the house, which actually is a corporate owner, a rent-to-own type of rental home company based out of Arizona called Progress Residential. When she talked to them, this is what she found out.
And I said, okay, can you tell me if you are the owners of this property? I gave her the address. She said, wait a minute. And she come in, she said, yes, ma'am, we are. My heart fell to the floor. And I said, ma'am, we are living in this property. And do you know this man? She said, no, ma'am.
Yeah, that's a tough spot. Now, she has been given a summons by the city of South Fulton, which basically alleges that she is a squatter. Now, we did reach out to Progress Residential, and this is a quote, comment from them. These type of rental scams are all too common, and we have a dedicated team in place that supports individuals who may have been victims of fraud. This team collaborates closely with law enforcement to investigate these reports. Ariel?
Kevin, I mean, I just feel for her so strongly. What a horrible situation. You can feel the emotion in her reaction just at this entire situation. How many of us, might go through a process thinking we're doing everything right, only to find out this is not how it is? Were there any red flags along the way that in hindsight she might have realized, and things that we could keep an eye out for? Because I feel like a lot of people are probably thinking, hey, how do I keep this from happening to me if I'm looking to rent a home?
Well, yeah, the one thing that she did after the fact that is suggested you do before the fact is match up the leases. Double check to see who is the owner. If you look at the lease and it has one name on it and you go and check county records, like at the tax assessor, and they don't match up, that's a problem. Now, the other thing here, the police report does say that the lease did appear to look fraudulent. And when we looked at that lease, there were some things that did not look correct on there, and she just didn't catch them. She said that the fact that it had stamps saying Fulton County on it made it seem legitimate to her, which, to be fair, maybe for some folks that might be the, government stamp. That sounds right, but that is not the best barometer. And probably more importantly, if you look at the top of that lease, there is a judge on it, and it is a judge in a color picture, and it has I guess we would say a good 18th, 17th century wig on it, like you might see with George Washington, or over in the British lands over there with a wig on, which did not look legitimate, and that probably is a good red flag right there.
Yeah, Kevin, those are just things that I think we should all keep an eye out for, but my heart absolutely goes out to her because no one should be found in this situation. Kevin, thank you so much. I'm back here in the newsroom trying to get some information on this because, when you think about this story, it's like these are things that we look at and we might say, hey, this is a red flag to us. But if someone's going through this situation for the first time and they're trying to make sense of it, this might be something that they overlook. So I feel like her tale is cautionary to a lot of people who may be trying to rent a home at this time.
Yeah, one of the things that's really interesting is that, we've actually been working this for a couple of days. We actually shot most of the story yesterday, and it caught me off guard because one of the things is like, well, how do you get into the house? Well, there was a smart lock, and she used an app, Rently, which you have to provide your ID, do facial recognition, and so she was able to get into the house that way. And she doesn't even have the keys, so she's trying to talk to this guy when we talked to her yesterday to not just try to get into not just to get the water turned on, because she doesn't have running water because it's not in her name, but she was trying to find out just what's the next steps here in terms of what she needs to get going. So it was quite a difficult situation for her without a doubt, with no keys and no running water.
Yeah, Kevin, as a final question here, is she able to work it out and keep that home? What are some of the next steps? And I know you kind of touched on this, but just for people who are streaming along who might be concerned about how she's doing, what does that look like?
Yeah, it's interesting. this is interesting. She has a court appearance in 2 weeks where she'll be able to state her case if she's a squatter or not, and she will present that lease, and hopefully that'll work out for her. But she'll be staying in there in the interim. What Progress did tell me is that she has an opportunity right now, if she wants to stay in that house, she can apply online and try to get into that house or another one of their properties. But she told me that she got scammed out of so much money, she doesn't have money for that house or any other house right now. So that's a real tough spot for her. You know, she gave money cash to the guy and the rest of it through a Chime account. And one of the things that, going back to what you were talking about, which might be a problem, if you're going through a residential property management company or a larger company like this, a rent-to-own type of situation, you're going to be going through a portal or something like that, as opposed to exchanging cash and giving cash apps and chimes, you know, if you were dealing with an individual. So that is a red flag that we should point out.
You know, Kevin, it's a lot of things after the fact. Anyone can look at it and go, hey, should have, could have, would have. These are things to point out. But until you find yourself in that situation and you're trying to make sense of it, you know, it can be very difficult. So if you hear of any ways to support her or things that the community's doing, let us know. But in the meantime, Kevin, I'll let you get back to news gathering and putting the story together. I appreciate your time and the conversation so much. And I hope this woman is able to find a place to live and to get the money needed to continue to have a place to stay. So that's very important. Kevin Stewart, thank you so much for joining us. Guys, we're going to continue along here because we have some other national and local stories to get to. If you're just joining us, welcome. Thanks so much for being here on your Thursday afternoon. The White House held a news briefing today to address the ongoing situation in Minneapolis. We spoke with our Connor Hansen there on the ground just a little bit ago about these dueling narratives that are shaping this story, in the sense that a lot of people are saying that the video did not match what the White House is claiming happened. They say that this woman was not trying to ram ICE agents there on the ground, and that they also believe that she was turning her car away from the agents at the time of this alleged attack. These are all things we're trying to get answers to because I see a lot of questions about this story. We did listen just a bit ago to that news conference from the White House. It's already wrapped up, and Vice President J.D. Vance was there in the briefing room, and he took questions from reporters and answered them. So let's listen to what they had to say.
Vice President Vance, you just suggested that this woman who was killed, Renee Good, is part of a broader left-wing network. Who do you think is behind this broader left-wing network?
Well, it's one of the things we're going to have to figure out, but here's the way that I put it. When somebody throws a brick at an ICE agent or somebody tries to run over an ICE agent, who paid for the brick? And who told protesters to show up and engage in violent activity against our law enforcement officers? You see, just with this most recent terrible incident in Minneapolis, you see friends of this woman's or other people who are eyewitnesses saying basically that she was there to engage in obstruction of a legitimate law enforcement operation. How did she get there? How did she learn about this? There's an entire network, and frankly, some of the media are participating in it, that is trying to incite violence against our law enforcement officers. It's ridiculous, it's preposterous, and part of our investigatory work is getting to the bottom of it. Who's funding it? Who's supporting it? Who's cheerleading it? And of course, if there's illegal activity related to that, we're going to get to the bottom of that and prosecute it where we can.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for taking questions today. Is there a risk with you describing her as a deranged leftist, talking about very specific facts of these events, when an investigation is just beginning? Are you preempting a thorough investigation by drawing such conclusions? And have you received any information beyond the videos we've seen publicly about this individual, her specific acts, that has informed your point of view?
Well, first of all, the Department of Justice is going to investigate this. The Department of Homeland Security is already investigating this. But the simple fact is, what you see is what you get in this case. You have a woman who was trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. Nobody debates that. You have a woman who aimed her car at a law enforcement officer and pressed on the accelerator. Nobody debates that. I can believe that her death is a tragedy. tragedy, while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of our own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe, against our law enforcement officers. I think what is clearly happening here, and it's going to keep on happening unless the Democrats wake up and say, you know what, you don't have to agree with our immigration policies, you don't have to agree with what the president or the vice president believe about immigration enforcement, but why don't you take this to the ballot box? Why don't you vote? Why don't you organize? Instead, what some of them are doing is encouraging people to get violent with our law enforcement officials. It's disgraceful, and it's got to stop.
Just to follow up on that question, and again, thank you for taking questions, Mr. Vice President. There's clearly a lot of emotion in Minnesota, across the country, over this incident. You're calling Renee Good a deranged leftist. There's been heated rhetoric that we've also heard from officials. What responsibility do you and the president have to diffuse some of the tension that we are seeing play out in Minnesota, bring down the temperature as this investigation is unfolding?
What we have a responsibility to do is to protect the people who are enforcing the law and protect the country writ large. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, you deserve to have the people's laws enforced in the United States of America. Now, again, I'm not happy that this woman lost her life. I'm not happy that this woman was there at a protest violating the law by interfering with a law enforcement action. I think that we can all recognize that the best way to turn down the temperature is to tell people to take their concerns about immigration policy to the ballot box. Stop assaulting and stop inciting violence against our law enforcement officers. That's the best way to take down the temperature. And we're not going to give in to terrorism on this. And that's exactly what's happening. People trying to antagonize, to commit acts of violence. They throw bricks at them. Sometimes they shoot at them. Sometimes they dox them. Sometimes they go to their place of residence and harass their families. This is classic terrorism. And we cannot say that when a far left fringe is inciting violence against our brave law enforcement officials, that we're no longer going to enforce the law. That's rewarding the very people who are engaged in this garbage. The actual reward that they just got is a new assistant attorney general who is going to prosecute and investigate this stuff even more aggressively than before.
You're listening into Vice President J.D. Vance from the White House briefing room. This wrapped up about an hour ago. The Vice President taking questions from reporters about the ongoing situation in Minneapolis, where a woman is shot and killed by an ICE agent yesterday. Now, as we continue to keep you updated on what is happening here nationally, I want to let you know the next steps for Venezuela, because President Trump is outlining a little bit more about what this plan is going to look like and where we head from here. We do know that the president says the United States is going to control Venezuela and call the shots for the next couple of years or maybe even longer. So far, that idea seems to be meeting with little resistance within the Venezuelan government. We know some pro-government rallies did continue in Venezuela's capital of Caracas 5 days after the arrest of Nicolas Maduro. Some officials are promising to defy the president and the United States, but behind closed doors, there are signs of cooperation. We know President Trump says the United States could oversee Venezuela and extract its oil for years to come. And the president did post on social media that Venezuela will buy, quote, only American-made products with that oil revenue. This does come after two seizures of Venezuelan oil tankers. And at this time, the White House says the oil on those ships will be used to buy American-made goods for Venezuela, like medicine and agricultural products. Venezuela's new president, Delcy Rodriguez, has hinted this cooperation is not going to continue, at least in the short term, or rather hinted it will continue, but only in the short term. We also know that the President Trump, is expected to meet with Colombia's leader, Colombian President Gustavo Petro, on Wednesday, next Wednesday, about his alleged support of drug cartels. He has invited the Colombian president to Washington, and we do know that that meeting is set to happen as of now. President is also set to meet with oil executives on Friday to discuss what's next for the oil situation in Venezuela. So definitely a lot of interesting things happening. The Senate also today passed a bipartisan resolution to require congressional authorization for military force against Venezuela. And that came after the president said he may be taking further action militarily in the country. And Congress says not so fast. Another thing that Congress is saying not so fast to is the use of United States military power to take over Greenland. A growing number of lawmakers, including Republican leadership, are calling on President Trump to rule out the use of force to to acquire this Danish territory. And they have said that these military moves would be a non-starter. President Trump has renewed his push, saying that it is in the United States' strategic interest to acquire Greenland, and it's something that he wants to do, especially after capturing Nicolas Maduro. But Danish officials have said any attack on Greenland will mean the end of NATO. The White House has responded by refusing to rule out that military action, but Congress, especially even Republicans, are signaling they're not even going to support funding the military to do these actions. So definitely something to keep our eye on. Some even went further there in Europe and NATO, saying that any attack on Greenland without congressional approval would be illegal. So that is something we're keeping an eye on, especially as this support among lawmakers continues to fade. European allies are continuing to stand up and to support Denmark, and saying that any American attack on Greenland would constitute the end of NATO. And the fracturing of this alliance might not be a strong deterrent to President Trump, because he said he doesn't care about European security and European hegemony, but rather the Western Hemisphere, so South and North America. Something we're going to keep you updated on. As we know, Secretary of State Marco Rubio is set to meet with his Danish counterpart next week, hoping to de-escalate the tensions. I also want to let you know about a story that may affect your wallet here at home. The president is working to figure out how to make homes more affordable for Americans. This is something that a lot of people have been talking about, because a lot of you have been feeling the sting of higher prices and inflation. And now the Trump administration is trying to figure out new ways to tackle surging housing costs, especially ahead of the midterm elections. The president, calling it a pinnacle of the American dream, has said that homeownership is getting increasingly out of reach for far too many people. So in an effort to address these affordability challenges, the president posted to Truth Social yesterday, writing in part, quote, "I am immediately taking steps to ban large institutional investors from buying more single-family homes, and I will be calling on Congress to codify it. People live in homes, not corporations," end quote. Several lawmakers have supported the president's comments, saying big investors cause rising prices by reducing the number of available homes. And meanwhile, at a roundtable on affordable housing costs, Senate Democrats say the White House needs to take greater action than just this. President Trump says he's going to dive deeper into affordability plans during his speech at the World Economic Forum, and that is going to happen in Switzerland later this month. Of course, we're going to keep you updated right here on Fox Local. And as we continue, I'm going to get a check of your weather forecast, and I'm going to let you know what to expect here in the metro Atlanta area as we eye some cooler temperatures. That is straight ahead, as well as a check on what's next for our Atlanta Falcons. Welcome back in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstott. Let's send it over to meteorologist Doug Evans. He is giving us a check of our forecast for today, what to expect as we eye these warmer temperatures to go elsewhere.
Good afternoon, everybody. Listen, our temperatures are about to do a U-turn headed right back to winter. We've been in a fall, spring-like temperature pattern with temperatures in the 70s, and that's going to continue until Saturday. And then a cold front's coming our way. That's going to bring some storms and much lower high temperatures, as you see on the board here. 49 for Sunday, 48 for Monday, with overnight low temperatures in the 20s between then. Then we're headed back to more seasonable temperatures. That means in the 50s. We're all going to see temps that are going to be around the 70-degree mark today with a lot of cloudiness. Those clouds are going to continue to build throughout the day. We've got this monster weather system that's out in the west, and that's causing some tornado warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings already, and that's going to be just moving toward the east. It's going to arrive for us on Saturday morning into Saturday afternoon. And with that, we can expect some winds, some gusty winds, also a lot of rain. We've been looking at the rainfall totals anywhere near 3 inches when it's all out of here by Sunday for especially the North Georgia mountains. So we've got to keep an eye out this weekend for the potential of flash flooding, especially up in the North Georgia mountains. Not impressive rainfall totals with what's coming in on Friday. We talk about the kind of accumulative totals throughout the weekend. Here we are on Friday evening. We're already up toward about 1 inch in some communities, and then, wow, up to 3 inches in some spots, 3.5 inches, Rome, Ellijay, Canton, near that, Blairsville, 2.5 inches up there. So that brings us the potential for possibly some flash flooding. Below I-20, not much in the rainfall for you this weekend. Again, lots of clouds this afternoon, temperatures near 70 degrees. We're going to see those temperatures dive back into the 40s by Sunday and Monday. Hour by hour forecast. Here we are Friday morning into the Friday noon hour, and we're starting to see those showers coming out of Alabama, and then they become more widespread across the North Georgia area. And downtown, not going to see much in the way of rainfall. Anywhere south of 20, not also going to see much in rain. It's mostly North Georgia on to about I-20 or so. Over there in the west, the western counties, they can expect some rain showers possibly Friday evening. Here's the severe weather outlook for the next day or so. Saturday, it's mostly Louisiana, Mississippi into Alabama, including Birmingham, a level 2 risk there, and that does include the potential for tornadoes. For us, it's more damaging winds, frequent lightning, and heavy rain. This could change, though, and we'll be keeping a close eye on this in the Fox 5 Storm Center. So here you go. Here's our 7-day forecast. Again, near 70 today. That's where we'll top out. Friday, very close to that. We add some rain, especially for North Georgia. All of us see a greater potential for rain on Saturday, especially the potential of some severe weather on Saturday. So please add that to your weekend planning. Sunday, mostly cloudy and cold. Get some sunshine here on Monday, but it's cold and windy. With the wind, we expect temperatures overnight in the 20s, and that's going to be with the wind chill, man. That's going to be very cold Sunday night into Monday. And then we get back to more usual weather for this time of year in January. 54 is the average temperature for this year. This time of year, we expect that on Tuesday, and then we'll start a slow warming trend for the rest of the week.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Doug, so much. As we continue here in our 3 o'clock hour, Olivia Whitmire joining us live here at the desk to talk about what is next for the Atlanta Falcons. Olivia, Arthur Blank holding a news conference today, talking about what's next for the future of the team. I feel like a lot of fans say this is just long overdue.
I know a lot of fans certainly feel that way, and some were calling for change maybe during the season, this past season, the 2025-26 season, but we stuck it out through the end of the year, finished 8-9, missing the playoffs playoffs once again. And I think maybe that really could have been the straw that broke the camel's back, maybe for Arthur Blank. He said that he made this decision long before we went on that stretch to end things. We did end the year on a 4-game win streak, beating the Rams, one of the teams that many think could maybe win the Super Bowl this year. We were seeing some really great stuff out of the Atlanta Falcons, but Arthur Blank saying, listen, I made this decision before those great games were met. He said, and I quote, at the end of the day, I didn't think we achieved the level we were capable of. Simple as that. With the guys that we had on this roster, with the talent that we have here in Atlanta, he said, listen, we could be a playoff team. We could be one of those programs that maybe could get to the Super Bowl in the future, and this just wasn't cutting it.
You know, it's interesting because I've heard him talk about that, and I feel like he certainly wants better for the fans. At the end of the day, that's the mission, and he's just looking at Atlanta's such a great city. We have so many world-class amenities to offer. Our sports program should be in line with what we're doing here, so I can understand his frustration and why he kind of came to that decision. As far as the program, I know he's looking at hiring a president of football. Some names being tossed around. I know people have said Matt Ryan.
One name in particular. Yeah, exactly. Matt Ryan being tossed around for that. And to your point, he is looking to hire a president of football, and he is saying, I will do that before we hire a head coach or a general manager, because he wants that president of football to be part of those decisions. So when asked about the president of football today, someone said, what are you looking for in that role, and are you comfortable hiring someone who doesn't have any previous front office experience? And so Arthur chimes back and says, I think you're talking about Matt Ryan, right? I think we're all talking about Matt Ryan. And he did confirm that he is being interviewed. Matt Ryan is being considered for this role. We don't know if that interview is taking place today, tomorrow, or over the next couple of days, but it will happen. If it hasn't already happened, it will happen in the future, as long as we obviously consider other candidates as well. But he kind of is considered the front runner for this position, and I think Falcons fans would be overjoyed to see him.
Too. I think so. Olivia, you know, we've talked about the current team, where they stand. I know Arthur talked about quarterbacks, and I know we have a little bit of Arthur's news conference from earlier, so maybe we listen to some of that.
I say, why not?
I do think Michael is our franchise quarterback. The injury he sustained was on his other knee. The surgeon felt 1,000% secure in the medical procedure they went through, and they really felt his knee was going to be even better than it was before. He's on a successful rehab program. He's back in Atlanta. He's committed mentally, physically. He feels good. So, yes, I would certainly see that.
Olivia, you know, a question this brings to mind for me is he's, of course, talking about the quarterback situation, Michael Penix Jr., and it just brings to mind, I see a lot of fans talk, of course, about how we have this very expensive contract with Kirk Cousins, and then we have another first-round draft pick with Michael Penix Jr., but he hasn't been able to play because of injury. So a lot of fans have been asking, you know, what's next with our players? Where does that stand? And it seems like he was trying to address the future.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact verbiage of the question that was asked, but it essentially was, is Michael Penix Jr. the franchise quarterback that the Falcons have kind of been looking for? And he says very plainly, I do believe that he is. And he did say something about Kirk, saying, you know, we'll see what happens with Kirk Cousins in the future. We don't know the exact rehab timeline for Michael Penix, so we don't know if he'll be back by training camp, or maybe it won't be until week 5 or 6. And so then we'd obviously have to have somebody else to play in his place. So definitely answering some questions I think that a lot of fans had, especially as Kirk performed pretty well during that end stretch of the season this year. People were starting to wonder, okay, so are we going back to Kirk O'Chains? Or are we staying with Michael Penix? So according to Arthur Blank, Penix, he is the franchise quarterback that we're going to see, hopefully, for a long career here with the Atlanta Falcons.
Awesome. Olivia, thanks so much for joining me, making sense of what's next for the Falcons. Thank you guys for streaming along here with us. Coming up, we're going to take you out to our Chris Rosenthal as we look at a group that's trying to beat a world record with MARTA. That's straight ahead.
Okay, I saw this.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for being here. We are going to go out live to our Chris Rosenthal, where a group is trying to set a Guinness World Record for quickest ride on MARTA. So, Chris, I hear you talking to them and setting things up. What is happening there? It looks like a very, very interactive scene on the MARTA.
It's very chaotic, but very controlled chaos, and we're just moving right now. We're at Chambly. I got Joe here, and we're about to go to Dorville. We're going to make a train change there.
Yeah.
And tell me, how's the progress been so far?
It's good. No, it's actually not been good. It's been disastrous. Mark forgot his hat in the train. The train is now stopped. We missed a transfer in Lindbergh Center, but it's all good. Positivity.
It could all be worse.
It could all be worse. Yeah, it could all be better, but it could all be worse. But we're on track.
What's our time? Does anybody have a time so far?
Yeah. How long has it been?
3:41.
How long has it been? Yeah, it's been
37 minutes.
37 minutes, yeah, and we still haven't left the north branch, so we need the north, the south, the east, and the west. So
still hopeful? Still hopeful to make it in 3 hours. 3 hours is the goal.
Still world record pace, but we need to make all the transfers. Yes, exactly. So world record pace.
World record pace. I'm sweating. I see you're sweating a little bit.
Yeah.
And hopefully, a little over 2 hours be at the airport.
That's the plan. Yeah, we're gonna make it.
What's been the hardest part about this, or what's been unexpected about this?
It's just been so stressful because, I mean, trying to get the photos, like sometimes when we're on different places on the train, we can't get a photo of the sign, so we have to like kind of, and then it's stressful. It's stressful because you can't control it.
Yeah.
You can't control it.
And that's part of the process here to prove Guinness World Book of Records is that you have to take a photo at every single stop with the sign and have a time stamp to have proof. And there are witnesses here. There are guys with stopwatches. So, this isn't just something you're just doing kind of on your own. Huh?
No, exactly. Yeah, we have a whole group of people here just trying to support us. So, I mean, yeah. We're going to get it. I'm confident.
Yeah.
But the start doesn't look too promising. I'm too worried. Yeah, but we're good. We're good. Yeah.
We're good. And we're going to have to do a train swap as we turn back south again. So.
Exactly. Just meant to train south to Dorville, but we're going to stay on the same train and then go back. So it's going to take about 5 minutes.
Maybe better luck on the east-west line, huh?
Yeah, should be. Yeah, so we're confident. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we'll keep riding along with them and see what happens here. So anything could happen. This is
crazy day.
This is a crazy day here.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for wishing us luck, and yeah, we'll hopefully get a Guinness World Record in under 3 hours. So yeah.
That you are riding, you are doing a live shot while balancing live on a MARTA train. Maybe you're going to set a world record today. I mean, how many live shots have you done live on a MARTA train?
I don't know. I don't know. Hopefully I don't fall on live TV. I guess that could happen. But
it's been tough, right? We're nearly full. Yeah. I'm having to hold you. I'm having to hold this. Yeah, it's rough. It's rough.
We're about to get off. We're about to get off. Let's.
We're gonna stay on, but we need a.
I love he's giving you some support. Okay, I'll watch you guys get off. Chris. I'll let you run to the next one.
We're just gonna walk to the north side.
Okay, cool.
Okay, guys.
See, this is where they have to document.
Okay, now we walk to the north side so we can have a good transfer.
Guys, hurry.
Okay, did you bring everything, Steph? Steph, have you got everything? All right, let's do this.
I love that they are visiting Atlanta, and they even have MARTA gear, MARTA shirts. Run, guys, you can.
Oh yeah, MARTA hooked them up with some gear for sure, some merch. Oh, I think we're gonna get on this train. We got other media here too, some other cameras following along, and okay, all right.
Okay.
And this is part of this. This is part of the strategy. Get on the back of the train, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Because we want to get a transfer to 5 points, so we need to be at this side, and then with that we can transfer to the west side easily.
You got water and snacks?
Yes, we do. Yes. Yeah. What kind of snacks do we have? He packed all the snacks. So yeah.
Logistics
Yeah, we have all
You
the
guys
snacks.
want to eat?
Okay, perfect, amazing. Yeah, we have a bunch of snacks and everything. So yeah.
And Matthew over here, he's taking all the notes. So.
Yep. So far, documenting it all, I feel very confident. You know, when we did this in Chicago, a few bad things go your way, but it all comes down to do more things go your way than not go your way. So you got to do it with positive attitude.
Yeah, there's always. I mean, that's the thing. Like, even if you're doing like a record like this that requires no running, there's always going to be something happening. This guy lost his hat. We missed the transfer, but it's okay. We're here, and world record pace. But
awesome.
Yeah.
Making it, guys.
All right. Well, we'll keep with him and see what the record is. So.
Awesome. Chris, thanks. Might be setting a record there yourself, so document. I love it. Okay, guys, we're going to move on here. We've got some other things to get to coming up. We're going to be checking in with our Eli Jordan and how a local effort is underway to help homeless artists here in our city. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for being here. I want to tell you about a local group that helps find struggling people and give them access to resources and opportunities. Our Eli Jordan caught up with Dirty Laundry and shares what was happening today.
Hey, I'm in downtown Atlanta on Marietta Street in front of Big Dave's Cheesesteaks, where there's some recording going on, some street recording. It's really cool. Dirty Luxury is out here, and they've been recording homeless people for the past year, since May of 2025, and that's what they're doing right now out here. They're getting some tracks down. Baby Fox has been laying down some tracks. They're going through some proofing right now, and with me is Demetrius Worthy and Teddy Ruffin. And Demetrius, real quick, you're with Dirty Luxury. Tell me about how did you guys come up with this idea and concept?
So we were just going around the downtown Atlanta area, getting some stories from the homeless, and then we're homeless. I mean, we are artists as well, so we just decided to say, hey, let's let them record music like we do.
And if you've gotten a good response, you've recorded like 100 people, correct?
Yes, we recorded about 100 people, got great responses from the community as well as the people that we record. They love it.
And right here, Teddy Ruffin. Mr. Ruffin, how you doing?
Doing all right.
You hold that mic up just a little bit closer so we hear. But tell me, what's it like recording? I mean, do you enjoy getting the opportunity to show off your pipes?
It's a blessing. It's a blessing. And I'm Teddy Ruffin, and it's been a long time coming, but I know Oh, change gon' come.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, it will.
Right on. Sounds great, man. Hopefully you will get signed. That's what Sam Cooke, right? Yeah. And that sounds like, I mean, you're finding some good people, Demetrius. Come out of here and record. And I mean, it has to be exciting for you guys.
It's definitely exciting. I mean, it's fun. You see how Teddy, he's ready to go at any time, and it puts a smile on his face. So it's great to see that.
And if people want to check out some more clips, tell us where they can go.
Dirty Luxury Official on all platforms. That's Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Dirty Luxury Official. And also, too, Big Dave's has been handing out, helping out and contributing, handing out the food for anybody that comes up and record. And real quick, though, where do you go from here, Dirty Luxury?
Where we go from here, we look forward to being a successful record label, as well as, establishing homeless shelters in the future if we can.
Awesome. Well, Teddy Ruffin and Demetrius Worthy, thank you very much. Ariel, that's what's going on out here. It's a pretty cool scene. And they're going to keep on recording as they can. Back to you.
Much for being out there, showing us how this local organization is helping out artists. Dirty Luxury is that organization, and you got to hear from Demetrius Worthy. You also got to hear from Teddy Ruffin, that singer with those great vocals. So Eli, thanks so much. Well, as we continue here, speaking of singing, Colgate 13 is Colgate University's first all-male a cappella group. It's here in Atlanta, and they had performances yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Since 1942, this Colgate 13 has been traveling here across the country, even across the globe, entertaining all audiences with extensive repertoire of classic and contemporary songs. So this group came in here and gave us an exclusive performance. Let's listen.
Well, we've got such a special treat for you today. Colgate 13 from upstate New York has made a stop here in Atlanta for some special performances across the city. It's so nice to meet you guys, an a cappella group, all male, again from upstate New York. It's wonderful to have you guys here on Good Day Atlanta. Thank you for coming in. Tell me about Colgate 13.
Yeah, so we are the Colgate 13. We're an a cappella group from Colgate University. We are the oldest all-male continuously running a cappella group. We are on our January tour, and this is titled The Southern Nights because we stopped by Nashville. We're here in Atlanta. We're going to Charlotte and Orlando, Florida.
And you guys are going to a couple iconic places here in Atlanta. You guys have the Aquarium, Atlanta Botanical Gardens, here on Fox as well. You guys have put together a special performance for us today. Is that right?
Yes, because we are in the state of lovely Georgia, we have prepared a special song for you.
Okay, well, let's hear it. We're so excited. Thank you, guys.
Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through. Just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. On my mind. Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through comes as sweet and clear as moonlight through the pines. Moonlight through the pines. Other arms reach out to me, other eyes smile tenderly. Still in peaceful dreams I see the road leads back to you, back to Georgia, Georgia. No peace I find, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. It's on my mind. It's on my mind. Other arms reach out to me, other eyes smile tenderly. Still in peaceful dreams I see the road leads back to you, back to Georgia, Georgia. No peace I find, just an old sweet song keeps Georgia on my mind. Georgia on my mind. Just an old sweet song keeps Georgia
Okay, guys, you were listening to the Colgate 13 perform. I saw some comments, some people asking here on TikTok and YouTube, where's the 13th member? You saw from their jackets, they are called the Colgate 13th, but there were 12 performers. I don't know. Maybe he was sick that day. But as we continue along here, we've got some more headlines to continue here with. We've been covering the situation in Minneapolis extensively throughout our 2 and 3 o'clock hours. We've also covered a lot of local and national stories as it relates to Greenland and what the Trump administration is looking at doing with housing costs. I'd like to tell you a little bit about some other stories that, in case you missed, you're caught up. And it involves the Trump administration of flipping the food pyramid and nutritional guidelines. They released new federal dietary guidelines just yesterday. And for the first time, these recommendations do address ultra-processed foods. The Trump administration is urging people to eat more protein while also cutting back on ultra-processed foods and added sugar. These new guidelines are finalized every 5 years. They prioritize fiber-rich whole grains, and they reverse course on past guidance related to healthy fats found in meats, eggs, and full-fat dairy. Officials say these guidelines are meant to be customized to address your preferences and financial needs. The American Medical Association reacted to these new guidelines, saying they, quote, affirm that food is medicine and offer clear direction to patients and physicians that they can use to improve health. We also know that during the final days of President Biden's term in office, the Dietary Advisory Committee did release its scientific report urging Americans to move closer to more a plant-based diet. However, those guidelines from the Biden administration did face some criticism for not addressing ultra-processed foods. The Trump administration now, over the next few years, hopes to translate these recommendations into school lunch requirements for kids here in America. But truthfully, that could take years. So that is something to keep you updated on as we continue. We'll keep you updated on any changes they make right here on Fox Local. As we continue, our 4 o'clock hour with news and weather is set to begin here momentarily. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for being live here with me. As we continue, I'll see you back here tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
Bye.